convincing?
Oh, tired.
Tired, but what time is it?
2 p.m.
And you're tired.
My Yeah, my sleep schedule is pretty messed up. I'm still working on it.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I get up at like 5 p.m. because of Corona as well, so I can't really diss you for it. Anyways, before we get into this, let me get a few disclaimers out of the way. First, everything that you say, do, or show me during this session is completely confidential, so you don't have to worry about me using it for anything, showing it to anyone, or talking to anyone about it. Number two, do yourself a favor and take notes. And three, the mantra that I follow with these sessions is once a coachee, always a coachee, which means that even after the session is over, if you have any questions or you want some advice, just send me a DM on Discord. And assuming that I'm still alive, I'm gonna get back to you as quickly as I can. Okay?
Okay.
Very nice. The way we're gonna structure this is first we're gonna go through the form that you filled out. You didn't really write a lot of stuff, so that shouldn't really take a very long time. And then afterwards we can just go over the gameplay. But the general gist that I got, actually, let's just go through top to bottom. So you said that you've been playing seriously since February 2019. What happened in February?
Uh, that was just pretty much when I bought the game.
Mm-hmm. So you just bought it and then you immediately had like intentions of taking it serious?
Yeah, well, I don't know. A little bit serious. The That was when I started caring about how good I was at Overwatch, pretty much immediately.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't actually until a few weeks ago that I made up my mind. Yes, I was actually going to be intentional
Mm-hmm.
and put in some effort to try to improve consistently.
Mm-hmm. So you said that you didn't have any previous competitive experience. So this is like the first game that you really took serious.
Yeah.
Why
I mean, when
specifically
I
Overwatch?
was honestly, I have no idea. I mean, I played TFC and then Team Fortress 2 quite a bit when I
Mm-hmm.
was younger, but I never took those seriously. I just hop in a server and fuck around playing Soldier or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would be done playing. For some reason, it matters a lot more to me how well I play Overwatch. And I'm not happy just like doing quick play and fucking around and then
Mm-hmm.
logging off.
Okay. So um, this doesn't really matter. You want to understand why you lost. You watched a few videos. You watched your own replays, but you didn't really feel like that helped. And you get tilted when you lose because you lose, but you don't really understand why you lose. And you feel like you're not really getting anywhere. So
Right.
I think before we get into that, we kind of need to address the elephant in the room. Do you have any idea what that might be?
No, I don't.
So, with the information in your form, there's like one pretty big red flag. Any idea?
No.
Okay. Mm. So I asked you. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm eating fucking candy on the side because I'm a fat fuck. Um, I asked you how many hours you put into the game each week, and you said 5 to 10. What are your thoughts on that?
It doesn't really feel like enough. I mean, I can tell that I'm, but well, that's part of why I talked about getting tilted because what will happen is I try to play, and if I lose and feel like I don't understand what happened, or worse, feel like I understand what happened and it wasn't me, then I get super tilted, and there is no point in me playing more because I will just play terribly
So
and
the
not
reason
learn
you stop
anything.
playing isn't because you don't have time or you're busy or whatever. It's just because you feel like you're not in the right mental state.
Exactly, yeah. I have lots of time.
Okay. So, did you read through my FAQ on the website?
I'm pretty sure I did, but I don't have
Do you
a lot of
remember the
memory of it.
first part of it? I just sent you a link if you want to quickly check up on it, because the first part is pretty important.
Yeah, okay. I see that.
Right?
So we're talking like 3 hours a day.
Basically, 3 to 4 hours is like optimal. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like I need to understand why you're here, right? Because it seems so you're getting tilted. So you said your main goal is you want to understand why you lose and how your actions contributed to the loss and how to improve my play so you win more, yada yada, right? But there's kind of two approaches to this. There's going over your gameplay and me telling you what you're doing wrong, and then you can try to fix it. But here's the problem. Right now, you're hovering between silver, which is trashed here, and gold, which is like recycled trashed here. So right now you're like at a very, very low elo still, right?
Right.
And I want to fix like the underlying problem. Because the underlying problem isn't that you don't understand why you lose. The underlying problem isn't like something gameplay specific. Because what you struggle with isn't playing Overwatch. What you struggle with is actually improving at the game. Because you have been playing this game for a while, right? Like 18 months now, which is quite a long period of time, of course. And you're still sitting in a below average rating, right? So the issue is that we need to figure out how we can get you to a point where you actually have a mindset that helps you improve.
Yeah,
Because
and honestly, I think that is part of why I'm kind of obsessed with Overwatch. This might be the first time in my life that there was something I wanted to do that didn't come easily to me. But that also means I honestly have not really any idea of what to do when I'm not good at something and want to be.
what do you do for a living?
I'm a computer programmer.
Okay. Um, let me think. I don't think I have any good analogies for computer programmers. Fuck. It's like a very niche job. Okay, here's the thing. A lot of people think that improving at a video game is like improving at playing an instrument or learning a new language or something like that. But that's not really what improving at video games is like. It's not like doing sports or learning how to dance or do parkour or skateboard or whatever. It's a lot more like doing research, essentially. It's a lot more like, Isaac Newton experimenting with shit in order to try and better understand how the universe works. Okay? And that's the kind of approach that you need when you want to get better at any video game, not just Overwatch in specific. Where it's not like there's one set way to play the game and you just immediately know how to play it, and then you need to just practice it until you can execute it. Because playing the game is like very complex, so it's not something that you can really just put down into one document and then someone reads that document and then they just understand everything there is to know about the game. It's a lot more about playing the game yourself and then trying to find ways to explain the game to yourself that actually makes sense. Like there's a German term for it. It's called an Eselsbrücke. It's like a way to memorize complex things more easily. So what I'm trying to get at here is that we need to fix the issue that you're getting tilted when you lose. Because you playing 5 to 10 hours is like just not going to work ever.
I follow that, yeah. But and actually, I watched your video about playing, and I tried playing more. And like I said, the problem I ran into is that I get tilted, and I could force myself to play more, but I do really terrible when I'm doing that, and I hate it, of course.
Right, but here's the thing, right? Because I'm going to be like very, I'm going to be very real here for a second. So just think about it this way. So you play the game, and then after like an hour of playing, after only an hour of playing, you reach a point where you are so mentally exhausted and frustrated and tilted that you can't play the game anymore. And then you go to bed, and then the next day you do the same thing. And then the next day you do the same thing. Like, is that fun?
No, not really.
So why are you doing it? Like, I know it seems weird, right? Like, your coach is telling you, why the fuck are you playing the game? But, like, that's kind of a question we need to answer. Because one thing that every single player that I've coached who has found success has in common is that they just love playing the game. Some of them are borderline addicted. They can play the game for 8 hours, and the only thing that's preventing them from playing more is that they need to, go grocery shopping and poop, you know? But 1 hour of gameplay is enough for you to just get you to a point mentally where you're so sick and tired of
Oh
the
no,
game.
I mean, well, it's 1 hour competitive.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
have no problem spending an entire day like on quick play.
well, yeah, but you didn't buy coaching because you want to become a pro quick play player,
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
and that's a really good question. It's one that I've asked myself. Why do I keep coming back? Because,
Because if you're here
well,
because you think that I'm going to give you some magical piece of advice and then you're going to play the game and you're going to start carrying and you're going to start winning a lot of games, that doesn't really matter. Because even if you climb, the whole point behind the ranked system is that eventually you're going to reach a point where what you know about the game, where your current skill sets aren't enough to consistently carry. So this state
right.
where you are losing games and you don't know why, you will always reach that state, whether it's right here down in silver or whether it's up in high masters. And it's only going to get worse because in high masters the players are a lot more elitist, so they're gonna shit on you a lot more. So if like it's already too much right now, like it's not going to get easier, right? Because that's the process of improvement. Like that's what needs to be enjoyable for you. What needs to be enjoyable is that you have like a challenge, that you have almost like a puzzle to solve. Like, okay, I'm losing these games and I'm not really sure why or what I should be doing differently, right? Like that's a puzzle. And like, sure, I can look at your gameplay. Like we're going to look at your gameplay in a moment, and then I can tell you what you're doing wrong, and then you're gonna fix that, and then maybe you're gonna climb. But that doesn't fix the problem that the moment you find yourself in a situation where you're losing and you don't immediately know why, that it frustrates you to the point where you just stop playing ranked. And you're here because you want to play ranked and you want to improve and you want to climb. But it sounds like the whole process of improvement isn't really all that enticing to you. You kind of want the results, but the process is like mental torture. Like you need to force yourself to play the game. And that doesn't sound very healthy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. I am not a psychologist. I know what's wrong with you, okay? And I can completely understand where you're coming from, right? And I don't want you to think that you're the only person who struggles with this, right? This feeling of uncertainty, this feeling of frustration, everyone has that to a certain extent, and some people have it to the same extreme extent as you, where they simply can't play the game, okay? All I can tell you is that you need to be honest with yourself, okay? Because if we're going to go over the VOD in a second, over the replay, I'm going to go over your gameplay, okay? And if the ultimate takeaway by the end of the session is, okay, I don't think I would have ever been able to like figure these things out that he told me on my own, and I feel like taking this game so serious just isn't good for my mental well-being, and you end up quitting the game, like from my end, that is perfectly fine. Because what I'm here for is to just make the game fun for you, right? You're here because you want to improve, you want to get better, you want to compete at higher levels. And sometimes the answer is, okay, so this is what's needed, this is what's required from me, this is the amount of effort I need to put in order to actually improve. Maybe this just isn't for me. Maybe this isn't my definition of fun. I bought this video game because I want to have fun, I want to play with friends, I want to enjoy myself, I want to improve a little bit on the side. But, if this is what improvement, if this is what climbing to the highest ranks really is like, maybe I'd rather spend my time doing something that's a bit more fun. And that's perfectly fine. So I just want you to kind of keep an open mind, right? And I don't want you to feel like you're giving up or that you're a failure if ultimately you decide, okay, maybe I just like playing the game casually more, because you said you can play quick play forever. It's really just ranked that's kind of stressing you out and where the losses really tilt you.
Yeah. Well, what's also happening though is that competitive, when it goes well, and that doesn't necessarily mean winning, is really, really fun. Because I think it's tighter on the skill matching.
Yeah, it is.
Right, and with quick play, if we end up where I'm on a team and I'm the terrible one, or they've got a widow that is killing everyone and we can't do anything about it, that's not fun. And that happens less in competitive. So it is more fun, but then also I get fixated on the number.
Do you play alone?
Almost always, yes.
Okay.
There's no one I play with regularly.
Is it just because there's no one really you'd want to play regularly with, or is it just that you're more of a lone wolf kind of guy? Because the problem that we need to fix is that losing isn't fun for you. And that's a problem. Because when a pro player loses, right, then that doesn't negate the enjoyment that he had out of that game. Even if he loses, even if he performs poorly, just playing the game is fun. Obviously, he likes winning and he doesn't like losing, right? But ultimately, the result isn't something you know until the end, right? If you think about it, let's say you have a 20-minute rank game, right? You don't really know what the outcome of the game is going to be until the end, right? Especially with the way Overwatch ranked works. Sometimes there are very one-sided stomps, but those games tend to be, very, very short anyways. But most of the longer games, right? If you have a 20-minute game, usually those are fairly close. They go into overtime. Both teams capture the point multiple times. It's kind of back and forth. And
they could have gone either way.
It could have gone either way. Exactly. And so you have 19 minutes of tense fighting over who's going to win. You win some team fights, you lose some team fights. And then only in the last minute of the game can you really say, oh, okay, this is basically won already. Or, oh, okay, I don't think we can lose this. I think we're too far behind. This game is basically over, And, but that 1 minute of where that you've lost, for some reason that completely negates the 19 minutes of actually playing the game itself. Just imagine every single game, just stopping shortly before it's about to end. So none of your games would have a winner or a loser, right? Ultimately, you were still playing the game. It's just at the last minute, where it's certain that someone is winning or losing is out of the equation, right? So when a pro player plays a game, it's not about whether he wins or whether he loses or if he's feeding or if he's playing really well. The game is just fun, he can just play it. If he plays a game, most of them, they don't even look at how their SR moves or whether they won or they lost. When the game is over, they just quit and they immediately queue, because the faster they queue, the faster they can go back to playing the game. And that's fun for them. They find it fun to just walk around the map, to throw abilities at their enemies, to deal damage, to 1v1 people. That's what's fun for them, you know? And then sometimes they lose and sometimes they win, but like the improvement process, like that's something that just kind of comes on the side, you know? Because when you're really having fun playing the game, then improvement is like, it's not something that needs to be forced, it just comes on its own because you can think a lot clearer and a lot more objectively. But it seems like you dread the outcome of every single game you queue for. Like, you don't even know whether the next game is going to be a win or a loss, but you're not even giving it that chance. You know, it's like you're just, you know, aborting that game before it even gets a chance to, you know, prove you wrong. Because who knows, maybe you're really tilted, but that next game, you know, like that could be a really, really long, you know, hard fought, very, very competitive game. But you don't even get to experience that because you're already, you know, like mentally boomed, so you just don't play. And that's the problem. Like, if the game is really fun for you, then your pure bliss, like the pure fun of the game, should easily outweigh the small depression that you get when you lose a game. Because it's normal to get a little depressed, right? You like invest so much time into that game and then you end up losing it and it feels like, oh no, you know, like that kind of sucks. But then, you know, the mindset has to be, okay, well, let's just queue for another and then see how that goes. You know, like the game was fun. But it feels like you don't have that mindset. You only have fun when you're playing well. You only have fun when you're winning. And it sounds like that would make me quite nervous as well. Like if during the game, all I could think about is how the game would end. It's like someone living their life, you know, with terminal cancer. Like, you know, I don't think I could enjoy my life very much if I knew that I was going to die in like 6 months. And it's for you, that's kind of how your ranked games are. You know, like you queue into a ranked game and all you can think about is, oh no, you know, how is this game going to end? Am I going to win? Am I going to lose? Am I going to make good plays? Am I going to make bad plays? Instead of just playing the game and then seeing what it throws at you. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you've nailed it.
Okay, well, I think I've said everything that I needed to say regarding that. Ultimately, it's kind of as you know, I really hate talking like that because it sounds like super, what is it called? Like snake oily, I guess. But ultimately, that's an answer that you need to find within yourself, as cheesy as it sounds. But what we're going to do now is I'm going to take this replay code that you put into the form, which hopefully still works. Yes, it does. And we are going to look at some phenomenal gameplay. So, how good is your internet?
I got cable.
I have no idea what that means. How fast is it?
Oh, like 250 megabit.
Okay, yeah, that should be fine. Okay, then I can do it like this. If you double click on my name on the server, you should be able to see my Overwatch.
Watch stream?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can full screen it, and then let me know if you can see the game. Okay, what's your in-game name?
Num Num Cookie.
Or which oh, over here, Mercy, okay. Yeah, the Neo replay viewer is really fucking stupid. Because it like doesn't show you the player names at the top anymore, it just shows you the character names. Which has to be the dumbest fucking change I have ever seen. It's actually insane. Aha, but let me make this a little louder. Okay, there we go, that works. Did you get a chance to look at this gameplay yourself previously?
Oh, jeez, I don't remember.
So you don't have like any particular thoughts going into this?
No.
Okay, so what's your job as Mercy?
Blue beaming. Healing when it's necessary to keep people
more
alive.
General. You're being like, you're kind of explaining what the character can do. I mean, like in general.
Mercy is a force multiplier.
Mm-hmm.
She makes the rest of the team perform better.
Mm-hmm. So your job is to make your teammates' lives easier.
Yes. and that make it easier for them to get picks or make it easier for them to stay alive. Um, that's that's the point of Mercy.
I mean, so far there's very, very little happening. Okay, one thing I'm noticing is that your movement sucks really, really hard. Unfortunately, I wish there was like an overlay so we could see like what keys you press. But if you look at your movement, do you notice how sometimes you just briefly stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you do that? Or I guess why do you think that could be bad?
I don't know why that would be bad. I know why I stop. It's because I don't see anywhere else I want to be. Pretty much.
Okay. The enemy team have a
But-
McCree, right?
Yeah, okay.
So let's
That
just say
is-
he's going on
yeah.
a wild, magical journey across the map, and he goes on a flank. And then he sees
And
you,
I'm-
like, just randomly standing still every once in a while. Do you see how that makes it easier for him to kill you?
Yeah.
Right? So what do you have to lose by strafing?
I mean, as Mercy, absolutely nothing.
Absolutely
Because,
nothing.
you know,
Okay.
it's a beam. It's not aimed.
Exactly. And what do you have to gain?
Well, if there's somebody I don't notice, which, yeah, happens all the time, sneaking up on me, then, well, maybe they miss instead of killing me
And if they
immediately,
miss, they
and I have
hear
a
the
chance
shot
to
and
respond.
have a chance to respond. Exactly. Right? So that's one big part of improving at a game. You always want to look for things that you can do that like don't really have any downsides and only have upsides. Like of course, most of the time if you just stand here and you like just strafe like this, it's not going to do anything. Right? It's not like standing still is going to immediately kill you. But sometimes it will. And then you'll ask yourself, okay, shit, why did I stand still? Why didn't I just stay moving? Right? So the point behind moving in this game isn't just to get from A to B, it's also just to make yourself a harder target to hit in general. And it makes it more difficult for the enemy team to kind of visually keep track of you. So just try to get into the habit of always strafing whenever you can, especially as Mercy. Okay, let's go back a little because your teammates got kind of low. Okay, now another concept that we need to talk about, which is very, very important, because is how your tank's HP works. Okay, so obviously you know what the yellow portion of their HP means, right?
That's the armor, right?
Okay, what does it do that normal HP doesn't?
Geez, I think it's like a flat damage reduction per...
Yeah, again, the
Attack?
specifics aren't like super relevant. It just means
It's damage reduction.
It's damage reduction, exactly. Okay, so that means that armor is worth more than HP, right?
Right.
I mean, what's better, healing up armor for a second or healing up HP for a second?
Well, armor, because that's more incoming damage that they can handle as a result
Exactly.
of my healing.
Exactly, right? Which is why when you play someone like Zenyatta, for example, very often you want to put your Harmony Orb on people with armor, because it essentially doubles the healing of your Harmony Orb, because armor is about twice as valuable as regular HP, right? Now that also means that your teammates' HP bars can become very confusing. So let's look at Orisa, for example, okay? So Orisa has approximately, like she basically has more armor than she has HP, right? I don't know the exact amount, like off the top of my head, but it's like 40% HP, 60% armor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that armor is also worth twice as much. So if you look at her HP bar here, I know it's a little bit difficult because it's kind of small, but it would seem like she's still fairly healthy, right? I mean, it looks like she has like 3/4 of her HP right now. But once you start to take into consideration that armor is essentially worth twice as much, right? Just imagine the armor portion of her HP bar, like doubled, right? And all of a
So
sudden, the
she's-
amount of HP that she has seems pretty small, right?
More like half health than what
Exactly.
it looks like.
Right? Or same thing with the Reinhardt. He almost doesn't have any armor left anymore, right? Because once a main tank loses his armor, this is what happens. They get shit on really, really hard, right? So the armor is kind of like a pillow almost, you know, it like softens the blow a little bit and it gives you more time to react. But once that armor is gone, they're shit out of luck. Now Orisa luckily has an ability, Fortify, which basically is the same as armor, essentially. It's a little bit stronger than armor, but it basically allows her to like be just as tanky as when she has armor, even when she doesn't have armor, if that makes sense. Right?
Does it stack with armor?
Yes, it does. So if an Orisa has armor and her shift, she's basically unkillable. Like she's very like the only thing that can really kill her is like, I mean, even a Diva Bomb won't kill her unless it's like very close. Like she is ridiculously difficult to kill. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that, you know, she used her Fortify here, which gives you some time to kind of heal her up. But if she hadn't pressed Fortify, right? So you need to be under the assumption that your teammates are really fucking stupid. Because right now, no offense, you're at an elo where... Okay, where the fuck am I? What is this replay viewer? There we go. You're at an elo where people don't really have like the fastest reaction time. So if we look at this, right? Just imagine for a second your Orisa not pressing Fortify in time, right? What happens if she would have fucked up? You know? Do you see how clutch that was? If she would have been like half a second slower, she would be dead right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And once the armor is gone, the amount of damage that's coming in becomes like very, very, very severe. So you want to make sure that when you see, right? So right now you're like healing squishies, you know, I think you're like healing the McCree over there, right? This McCree, healing him is actually not a priority. Okay. Because he's
Even though he's low.
Because he's not in the front line. Okay. You do want to heal him eventually, right? But when you see your main tanks with this low of an armor, right? It seems like the McCree is closer to being dead. But in reality, your main tanks are closer to being dead. It seems like they have a lot of HP, but in reality, this is like cutting it really, really close. Right? Especially since the Reinhardt shield is about to break and the Orisa doesn't have a shield up right now. Okay? And once the main tanks are dead, then the rest of the team is gonna die and you won't be able to heal anyways. Right?
So the tanks are totally not fine right now.
They are not fine, no. Like, if you see this, your alarm bells need to start ringing. Like, this is not... You want them to be as close to full HP as possible at all times. Basically, ignore the blue portion of their HP and only look at the armor. If a tank doesn't have armor, he's as good as dead, especially in high elo. Okay? Which is why high elo tanks basically only play around their armor. Like, if a high elo tank had this much HP, they would start falling back already until they got some healing. Okay? Because the thing is, right, let's say you heal them, but then the McCree dies. You can res him. He's all the way back here, and there are two strong, bulky main tanks protecting. But what happens if the Reinhardt dies?
So I can res.
Right, but what happens if the Reinhardt dies? Do you think you're going to be able to res him without dying?
I mean, playing in silver,
that the enemy
sometimes I get away with it. But no, absolutely. Like, if everyone on red team is on the ball, there's no way I could res him.
Exactly. Right? Or if your McCree dies, let's say he dies and you don't have res, right? As long as you have your main tanks, right, you can kind of stabilize, right? And you can give him time to return to the fight. But if one of the main tanks dies, then the enemy team is just going to start running in and rolling you over.
Right.
Okay? So that's why your main tanks really are, like, your highest priority. Also, my PC is fucking dying. Holy shit. This is, like, pretty rough. Oof. Okay, whatever. But yeah, cutting it pretty close. I need to quickly check something because it's, like, so hot over here in Germany. So I need to, like, check that my PC isn't, like, going too ham. Let's do this. Okay, almost done. I just don't want to, like, my PC has been crashing in some other sessions because, like, It's just a little bit too much.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
That would indeed not be good. You know what? Let me just turn that up. Unlock, startup. There we go. Yeah, I just need to kind of monitor it a little bit because it's pretty insane. Also because usually it's fine. Oh shit, now I have a frame time graph for some reason. Usually it's fine. It's just that when I'm like streaming it to you, it puts like extra strain on the processor. Okay, wait, I just need to figure out what my keybind is to turn off the display. It's F12. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. But yeah. See, so same thing here. Do you see how you like let go of your main tanks here for like 1 second? And they just, and everything just immediately goes to shit? Right, like look at this. And all of a sudden your main tank is like almost dead. Right, luckily your team reacted fast enough and they could kill the kamikaze Junkrat, but that's why you need to be so careful about your main tanks. Okay. Good, some stabilization. But I mean, so far not a whole lot is happening. A few close calls with your main tanks. See, again, so this is another thing that you really have to avoid. So it's important that you always, as a support, direct your attention towards those who are most likely to take damage. So who do you think is more likely to... Oh, sorry. Who is more likely to take damage? Someone over here, or this Ana all the way in the back?
The people in the front line.
Exactly. So the only time you want to divert your eyes off of the people in the front line is if you're 100% confident that nothing is going to happen to them. Because right here, you turn around to like help the Ana, right? And to be fair, your Junkrat is suiciding, right? There's nothing that you can realistically do for him. But maybe if you would have been with him, maybe if you'd have recognized that he was going towards like a very aggressive position, maybe you could have helped him. Right? Because you see that he's going on like this weird flank, which means that he's putting himself into a very dangerous position. Right?
Right.
And the more forward someone is, the more likely they are to take damage, ultimately. Okay? But you kind of just let him go on his flank alone, right? And keep in mind, I'm not saying there's anything you could have done for him. He got absolutely blasted to pieces, and his weird solo flanking move, quite frankly, was just really fucking stupid, right? I'm not denying that. But it's still important that you keep an eye on him to at least like try to help him a little bit, even if what he's doing is stupid.
And flanking isn't always stupid.
Yeah, it's not always stupid. Flanking as a Junkrat is stupid. Because if you want to flank, you need to either have mobility or you need to have some form of self-sustain. Junkrat is neither. Okay, so what are you doing right here?
I honestly don't know.
You're trying to go for a res on the Junkrat.
Oh, right.
Why is that not smart?
Well, because, I mean, the tanks are engaged, they're taking damage, there's a lot of activity here, and I would have to go, like, into the middle of the red team to pull off the res. So then I put myself in a lot of danger to res, well, Junkrat, like you said, he's got no mobility or sustain, so most likely he's going to die immediately, and I'll probably die also, and, you know, that's it.
That's it. Right? So, if you really wanted to res him, you could have done so with your ultimate. Like, that's kind of one of the main purposes behind Mercy Ultimate. Mercy Ultimate allows you to go for reses that normally would be suicide.
That is usually what I use it for.
Yeah. The problem is that, quite frankly, even with your ultimate, I don't think you could have gone for this res. But actually, I mean, maybe. Like, if you could, like, shift to him from here, maybe you could have resed him. But even then, I think it's a pretty close call. Right here, it's better to just count your losses and just let your teammates, like, play out the fight. Because if you look at the kill feed, right? So, your McCree got a kill on the Junkrat. right? So let's think, you said in your form, like sometimes you lose a fight and you don't know what you should have done differently, right? So what you did here is you tried to go for a res on the Junkrat, right? Which has two consequences, right? Right now, you're in a 5v6, okay? You going for the res on the Junkrat has two consequences. First of all, it means that you die, which makes it a 4v6, and it means that your Orisa dies, because she doesn't have any armor, and her support is nowhere to be seen.
Because I was screwing around running away from Moira instead of doing my job.
Exactly. So, you tried to resurrect the Junkrat, but all you did was kill yourself and kill your Orisa. Okay? So, that means we're kind of in a 3v6 right now. But look at the kill feed. Do you see what happened to the enemy Junkrat? He died, right? So, if you didn't go for that res, and you
Then it would have
instead
been...
just kept alive your Orisa, this would be a 5v5.
Right.
And you could ult, which would keep your team alive against the Moira ultimate, and you would have been perfectly fine here. So do you see how, no offense, you single-handedly threw this team fight?
Yeah, I think so.
You turned
I got
5v5
distracted.
into a 3v5.
I got distracted looking for a res instead of keeping my tanks up.
Exactly. But okay, let's see how this goes.
You should be at peak performance
I don't think there's a whole lot that you could have done about the McCree. He was kind of trapped in there. It's kind of his fault. And your Junkrat is in kind of a stupid position again anyway. Yeah, this is the enemy team just using a bunch of ultimates. This isn't really too important. Like at that point, they basically just snowballed from the previous fight, but that's okay because they used a lot of ultimates. They used Grab, they used Nano Boost, they used Moira ultimate.
A speedy recovery.
So now we need to get a proper reset, and then we can hold the second point. I'm skipping over like all of these parts because they're not super interesting. Like in low elo, the more low elo you are, the more snowbally the game becomes. Like if you would have won that last team fight, that momentum could have potentially turned it into like a first point hold. But because you lost that team fight, now the enemy team can just snowball and snowball and snowball. Because low elo teams are like really, really bad at stabilizing. Right?
Right.
So that's why, you know, it's not like you threw that one team fight. You basically threw like 3 team fights. Because of the ones that they could just snowball for free afterwards. But yeah, again, like this is all just a waste of time. Like this is all just a consequence of what you did earlier.
Right.
Once your team is like regrouped as 6, that's when you have a chance to like regain the game's momentum. And once you have the momentum, once you are in control of the payload and the enemy team has to push into you, that's when you can start snowballing yourself. Yeah, here, same thing. You kind of ditched your Orisa, or you like started healing the Orisa, but then you swapped off of her to heal the Ana. Don't do that. The Orisa needs the healing much, much more than her, because the Orisa has a much, much larger hitbox, and she's playing all the way forward. So the damage that the Orisa is going to take is going to be much, much bigger than how much damage the Ana is going to take. Okay. See, that was an example where the enemy McCree just went on a flank. Imagine if you just stood still there and he would have just double headshotted you. You didn't, which is good, but if you did, you'd probably be dead right now. Okay, so this is good because now your team is regaining momentum. So now it's your opportunity to snowball. And ideally, if you play this properly, then you can just hold the payload right there where it's at. good. Pushing forward so that you can maintain line of sight with them. Pocketing the Reinhardt, which is also good. As long as you're proactive with healing your tanks, it's fine. Now, another thing that I'm noticing is you're like not very... you're kind of not using your ultimate very often. Is there a reason for that?
I don't really know, or at least it's hard for me to see in the middle of the fight.
Okay. So
when
do
I
we
can
want
use
to
it and not
use
be
our-
wasting it.
Okay, so how can we figure that out? Whether it's gonna be wasted?
Man, I've tried. It seems like a lot of times I think that a fight still needs to be decided, and I hit Q, and then 3 seconds later, I mean, basically, once I've flown around a little bit and gotten a better idea of what's going on, actually, that fight was won, and so then I end up. I mean, the enemy team is resetting while I'm flying around with Valk.
Mm-hmm.
That happens pretty often.
Mm-hmm.
Or same thing, I hit Q and the fight's lost. And then I end up using it to fly away.
Okay. So generally
That's-
speaking, Mercy Ultimate is among those ultimates that you can just use basically as soon as the teamfight starts. It charges very, very quickly, so it's one of those ultimates you can have ready for basically every single teamfight.
Yeah, I mean, but I tried doing that. I hit Q, and then I end up blue beaming my team for 20 seconds while everybody kind of pokes and not much happens.
Right, so how can we avoid that? By using it when the teamfight starts. How can we tell
Right,
when the
and
teamfight starts?
honestly, I've been trying to figure that out, and I don't know.
Well, look at this clip here. Okay, I'm gonna increase the volume a little so you can like hear the game sound. And you tell me when you think the teamfight starts.
Right here.
When she grabs?
No. When Moira ults, or maybe a little before
When
then.
Moira ults, okay. So why does that mark the start of the teamfight?
Well, at least that's when I would start getting worried, because everybody is grouped up. Moira can put a crap
So you
load of
said how you
damage on us.
So you said how sometimes you use your... It doesn't actually deal that much damage. Most of the value from Moira ultimate actually comes from the healing it does. Anyways, so you said that one of the problems here with your ultimate is that sometimes you use it and you kind of just heal your team, and it doesn't really lead to anything. Right?
Right.
Okay. Because your teammates just stand around and then they poke for like 20 seconds. Okay. But if you would have ulted when the Moira would have ulted, you get guaranteed value out of your Valk. Right? Because either the enemy team goes in and you can heal your team with your ultimate and damage boost them, or the enemy team doesn't go in which case they wasted their Moira ultimate. Does it make sense?
I mean, they might decide not to go in because I ulted.
Yeah. So your ultimate would have essentially stopped their engage. And it means that they would have wasted their Moira ultimate. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay.
Die Wunder der modernen Medizin.
Okay, I'm actually gonna lower the render scale because my PC is literally dying right now. These temperatures are actually insane.
How hot is it there?
I need to quickly open up my browser so I can tell you. It is Fahrenheit. 91 Fahrenheit.
Oh wow.
Let's get you that outfit.
The problem is our nights aren't cold. They're just as hot. There's actually like a heat warning even. It's insane. But okay, let's look at this.
I'm with you. Let's get you that outfit.
So again, do you see how you're not using your ultimate? Your Orisa already ulted. Right?
Right.
So what does that mean for us? And the enemy team is pushing into you. Once ultimates are getting used, the team fight starts. Right? Your ultimate, don't think of your ultimate as an ultimate, think of it as an ability with a long cooldown.
Right. Although I'm looking at the screen and
Heroes never die.
oh, well there I go.
You could have done this like a lot earlier.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain that what I was thinking was Rhine's antied, so it wouldn't help.
No, you could have ulted right here. And your Reinhardt could just run in. He would be pocketed by you. He would have the damage boost from the Orisa. Your teammates are coming in. Do you see how the enemy team is advancing on your front line? If you ultimate here, there's two outcomes. Either the enemy team will start backing off, which buys you time, or the enemy team doesn't start backing off, in which case your team is going to be mercy damage boosted and supercharger damage boosted, which means that the enemy team is literally going to get one shot. Right?
Right.
Like, do you see how low HP your Reinhardt is, for example? Like, you could give your team so much sustain and so much damage output.
Is approaching its destination.
But you're not. You're holding onto your ultimate for a very long time, and that's not good. Your ultimate needs to be used much more frequently. As soon as the enemy team engages, and you can tell that they're engaging by their tanks moving in or by them using ultimates. If one of those two things happens, just use your ultimate. Your ultimate should be among the first used in the team fight. You don't want to save it until the end. The earlier you use it, the more of an impact it's going to have. And you really can't waste it.
Performance level.
It charges so ridiculously quickly.
I've noticed that, yeah.
But right now, like so far, throughout this entire defense, you've had one ultimate. A proper
Really?
Mercy player would have like 4. Also, don't pistol. Damage boosting is basically always better than pistoling. Only use pistol for self-defense. Okay, pocketing your Ryan, that's good. Ah, see? Right there, you stopped pocketing the Ryan for like 1 second, and he almost died again. Right? Just default your healing beam. Like, if you don't have anything else to do, just default your healing beam on the main tank. As you get into higher elo, where tanks can manage their HP better, that's when you can start to like damage boost a little bit more. But in low elo, most of the time, just keeping your healing beam on the main tank is the best choice. Because yeah, he just goes for 1 fire strike and he's almost dead because you didn't pocket him. Did you see how dramatic that was?
I saw that. His shield dropped for half a second and he
And
melted.
he's almost dead, and that's what you need to be ready for.
It was basically luck that he stayed alive.
Yeah. But it looked like you almost have your ultimate again.
Yeah.
Okay, and obviously going for the res there, I mean, it doesn't make a difference. This team fight is kind of over anyways.
It was very stupid though.
Okay, well, Mr. Nom Nom, do we have any questions? because this looks like it's kind of over anyways.
Diffondere moderne medicin.
60 seconds remaining.
Ooh, okay, the enemy
I
team
mean-
actually whiffed.
At this point, I'm not sure I have any questions, 'cause I have a lot to
People
ponder
don't have
right now.
questions. It means that I must have done something right, you know? Okay.
Yeah, well, pretty much you've told me so many things that I'd never considered that, like, well, I need to think about that. It's it seems like, well, at least some of the things I was doing, like trying to boost DPS and stuff. That's, I know where that's coming from, is paying attention to things I read on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems like maybe that's not a great idea. Because like you're saying that like at higher elos it matters. I'm not, at least right now, I can't really tell whether if somebody says something like, does it apply to me or not?
High elo is generally like starts at around masters.
Right. No, but I mean, if somebody just gives general advice for Mercy and they're
Well,
not
there is no general
qualifying
advice.
it.
Anyone trying to sell you general advice doesn't know what they're talking about. Like the game changes a lot. Like it's as if, like, think about school, you know? Like you can't give the same piece of advice to a college graduate and a third grader, you know? Like
It's a different game.
it's basically a different game. Yeah. Like, you know, yeah. Okay. Also, I'm gonna kill the screen share because it actually is killing my PC right now.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, dang, 257.
57?
It's 257 local time. Well,
Oh yeah, I mean,
very much.
time flies by when you're having existential crises.
Actually, it was. I had a lot of fun being walked through my failures by you, which sounds kind of weird, but really, thank you.
Don't worry, I'm just doing my job. If you have any more questions, you can always DM me. If in the man, I'm so unprepared. Give me a second. In the event that you'd like to get another session in the future, make sure to use this link, because the way it works is that if you had a session in the past, the next sessions get cheaper and cheaper, up to 3 previous sessions. And if you, oh my god, why do I have caps lock on? If you have the time, you can go to this page and leave a review, which is always super duper helpful. Okay,
All right, thank you.
any more questions?
Not right now.
Then I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Have a good one. See ya.
You too.